Hey everybody, it's Monday. Let's do a meditation together. I'm really excited to add new content to my YouTube channel, so please like, subscribe, add a comment if you'd like. You can also get in touch with me through my website, which I will link in the show notes. I will also link the text that we're using today. We will be inspired by and reading a passage by Lama Rod Owens, his book Love and Rage. He also co-authored another book which is amazing called Radical Dharma, and we may reference that in the future as well for some meditation. I've been speaking to my partner and my friends in this time, and I feel like all of us are doing a lot of what's called emotional labor. And if that's not a new term for you, that's okay. If it's a new term for you, that's okay. We're going to read a little bit of what Lama Rod says about emotional labor, and then we'll do a meditation that is inspired by one of his other sections in this book. I really recommend reading from Lama Rod. He is really a beautiful writer, a wonderful thinker, and has a very intersectional lens through which we can look. So I'm glad to bring him sort of proverbially into the room. So the emotional labor that I'm doing right now has to do with anger, and Love and Rage obviously deals with anger. I also have found that this is pretty common amongst my friends and the people around me, that we're pretty angry. And we've been socialized to believe that anger is not a good emotion. And sometimes that can really inhibit us from doing things that feel most authentic or most honest. And I think that there's a way in which we do more emotional labor to maneuver around anger than it would take to just hold some space for anger. So let's start at the beginning, okay? Find some place to be comfortable. There are no prescribed one position for meditation. Sure, there is a leaning toward teaching meditation in a seated posture, but you can meditate kneeling, you could be meditating standing up, you could be meditating laying down, you could be meditating in bed, you could be meditating on your walk. It doesn't matter. Meditation is the mindful noticing. It's just the mindful noticing. So even if you're in your car and you're meditating, that's just fine. Just ignore when I tell you to close your eyes. Don't want to do that when you're driving your car. So let's talk about what Lama Rod has to say about emotional labor. So what is emotional labor? To begin with, emotions are mental states originating in the body as sensations, which are labeled by the mind, resulting in experiences that are pleasurable, unpleasurable, or neutral. Emotional labor is both the seen and the unseen work of caring for, caretaking, and taking care of our emotional states or other people's emotional states. Currently, we understand the expression of emotional labor as the many ways we attempt to make other people comfortable and happy. This includes actively listening to others, asking how people are feeling, checking in with them, letting them vent in front of you, and suppressing or not reacting to someone when they're being rude or disrespectful. It's the work we do to help people process their emotions. If you're in a helping profession or customer service position, emotional labor is always having to smile and be pleasant, even when you don't feel like it, and especially when someone is being a monster to you. Moreover, it's how some of us sense imbalance in interactions and relationships, and the work we do to bring these relationships into balance, often without being asked to do so, so without consent. Lama Rod says, I have strong empathic abilities, which means that I am very sensitive to other people's emotions, and thus am also sensitive to imbalances in relationships. This fuels my work of doing emotional labor for others. The idea of emotional labor comes out of 1970s feminist work, and since then has been instrumental in helping us to understand how emotional labor was a gendered expression where women were seen as carrying the bulk of emotional labor. Describing this work as labor frames it first as something that is offered and should be compensated for, and second as something that takes effort. Lama Rod says, I appreciate this framing not because of its reference to capitalism, but because it helps me to understand that emotional labor is work. If I'm doing this labor for others without support, I will get burned out and resentful. When we are working through our anger and hurt, we need individuals and communities to support us in doing this labor while at the same time being aware of the effort others are putting in. Holding space is the work of being with ourselves and others in a non-reactive way. I am able to notice everything that comes up in my mind and body, and I can allow it to be there without having to react to it. Not reacting to the material, in my experience, means that I have the space to focus on other things as well, while not losing awareness of the material. So the stuff's in your head. You know the stuff is in your head. You can see it and let it be in your head and move on. And isn't that kind of meditation's goal anyway? Just holding that space, yeah? When I get distracted and start reacting to the material that is coming up for me, then I'm not holding space for myself or anyone else. Authentic holding space means that first and foremost, I am holding space for myself. So, while Lama Rod defines emotional labor within the more general terms of it being about other people, I think that we do a lot of emotional labor for ourselves, or at least we should be originating the emotional labor that we're doing by giving that labor to ourselves first. So that's going to be the goal here. And, sometimes when you go to meditate, it's just not going to happen today, and that's okay. Maybe you're just listening to my voice, drifting off into whatever space you need to drift off into, and then going back into your world after a small break. This can also just be a few minutes that you've taken to breathe. Very powerful meditations are rooted in breath. So to get settled here, hopefully you've found a place to be as comfortable as possible. Again, it really doesn't matter what posture you're sitting or standing or leaning or walking or driving, whatever, wherever you are, if you can get to a space that's as comfortable as possible and find perhaps a corner of quiet, and begin to notice the way your body feels right now. And you can close your eyes if that's helpful for you. You could also stare down the bridge of your nose. Or you can simply let your eyes become unfocused. So sort of like you're just staring off into space, not focused really on one thing. Maybe a couple of breaths like that, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Maybe it's a breath where you inhale, hold at the top, and then exhale. And then maybe it's longer, inhale. And then exhaling when you're ready, just to come into this space. Remember, you can continue just focusing on your breath, perhaps labeling your in-breath in and your out-breath out. Or you can begin to come into your quietness. Perhaps you can begin to notice your head. Notice your hair if you have it, or your fur, like your eyebrows or your mustache or any of your facial hair, even if it's peach fuzz, whatever kind of fuzz you've got on your skin, if you have any, just notice. And then bringing your attention maybe to the skin, covering your whole head. Maybe a little more internal, you start noticing the muscles of your face, of your forehead, of your scalp. Maybe the tiny muscles in front of and in back of your ears. Maybe the jaw falls open just a little bit, allowing the tongue to drop from the roof of your mouth so that it pools heavily in the bottom part of your jaw. And then notice the space within your skull. Your skull cavity. Maybe noticing the space now that's inside your throat. The throat cavity. And then working your way down, noticing the trunk, the room and the space that's inside your trunk. Back up, noticing the space inside your chest and inside your throat, and the space inside your head. And I'd like for you to think of your body, those parts of your body, as sort of a balloon or a cylinder or a sphere, something big and empty that as you breathe opens up and grows. And as you exhale, maybe it fluctuates back in a little bit. So on your inhale, that space expands. And on your exhale, that space contracts just a little bit. And then noticing sensation here. Specifically, I'm going to call you to the sensation of anger. Anger really is uncomfortable. And so if we go there in our meditation and we feel really uncomfortable and you don't want to stay there, that's okay. Go back to your breathing, expanding around your inhale and contracting a little bit on your exhale. But if you can touch anger here, just notice it. Notice the sensations and where those sensations live inside your body. For me, anger is very upper chest and throat. And while anger is still there, while you can still feel anger, add on that expansion and contraction of your breath. Inhaling, expanding around this feeling of anger, the sensation in your body that anger creates, and exhaling, just coming back in a little bit, noticing that there's anger. Not following the story of why, just noticing that anger is and anger feels like, and then inhale and exhale, really holding space for the sensation of anger, allowing the sensation of anger, and breathing more expansively around it, giving yourself space around anger, above, below, side to side, front and back, big expansion with your inhale. And exhale. And now let go of that sensation of anger. And just start to label your breath. In on the inhale, feeling the expansion. And out on the exhale, feeling the contraction. Your body is like a balloon or a sphere or a cylinder, something open and spacious. And when you breathe in, you're making it more open and more spacious. And when you breathe out, it's just a gentle coming together. A few more breaths like that. If you notice new sensations, perhaps just, that's a sensation. I'm going to move away from that and come back to that inhale, expanding, exhale, contracting. Maybe the sensations never quite go away. That's okay. Notice how you can still breathe around them. And if you can't, try to move or change or focus on something different. Like maybe you're counting your breath. Maybe you're giving it 4 count in and a 4 count out. Really focusing on the space, physical space that you're creating within the body cavity. And from here, notice how your breath expands your torso. How it rushes through your throat cavity. And then notice the entryway of your breath in your nose or in your mouth, wherever you're breathing from. Notice the entry of the air and the exit of the air. Bringing your attention inside the cranial cavity. I think I just gave it a new name. The cavity inside your skull. Maybe when you inhale, you can feel the breath sort of swirling around in that cavity before it drops into the belly. And then when you exhale, same thing, rushing up through the throat, back out of the nose. And then maybe noticing the skin around your face and the muscles that it covers. Just noticing your cheeks, your brow, your mouth, your scalp, and your ears. If you're restraining your breath in any way, like counting, or if you're still going in and out, just let that go and come back to your natural breath. Maybe rocking the head side to side, looking over one shoulder, and then the other shoulder. And come back into the room or the space you are in, noticing what your body is touching for support. Maybe it's a seat, maybe it's your feet, maybe it's a bed. I wish I could have stuck a rhyme in there. Just sort of coming back. Let's take one deep breath together. Inhale. And exhale. Take your time being gentle coming out of this. Knowing that we worked with these sensations of anger. Perhaps you chose something different. Perhaps it was something else coming for you. But if you came with me and you dealt with anger today, that can be a pretty big feeling. Know that you don't need to unpack it any further. Know that you can just be angry and that sensation and having those sensations are okay. And hopefully from this you've taken space. Just your ability to give yourself a little bit of wiggle room on all sides of whatever difficult emotion you're dealing with. You've got room around it. Maybe we've got room. Maybe we can just try. Thanks so much for joining me today for meditation. Again, I read from Lama Rod Owens' book, Love and Rage, and we did a meditation inspired by one of his practices that's a little later in the book. And I just, again, can't recommend this book enough, along with the book he co-wrote called Radical Dharma. He's wonderful. He also has an online community called Bhumi Sparsha. I think it's out of Boston. Pretty sure it is. So I'll just link everything in the show notes and you all can tell me what you need if you need anything further in the comments. So again, like, subscribe, comment, and donate. My Venmo and my PayPal are in the show notes as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'm Sarah Nicholson. This is Sarah Elizabeth Nicholson Yoga. Thank you.